AITA or am I being screwed? Me, DM Barbarian. Problem player 1 Bard. Problem player 2 Wife to problem player 1 Fighter. PC brother to problem player 1 Paladin. PC Wizard. PC. I will try to be brief, and I'm sorry if this is long. This is my first Reddit post and I really want to explain to the best of my abilities. We are running an intermediate session where the players are LVL10 and are fighting legendary monsters. I told them to optimize because survival is important. This was all agreed upon as a game we wanted to do. The day before the session starts, Barbarian asked me if his wife Bard can join. I say sure, I don't want to exclude anybody, but I warn that this will be a tougher campaign. He says it's not a problem, and then when the day comes she has never played D&D before and hasn't even made her sheet. Well, we spent the next 4 hours helping her while the Barbarian sat on his phone looking at memes. We got 2 hours in the campaign and she said she needed to take a nap, so we had stopped that day. Next week rolls by and when we pull up to where we are supposed to meet, which is the Barbarian's house, the Barbarian and Bard say they will be there shortly. After 30 minutes they apologized they were late, but they were in the middle of Mario Party. After about an hour, the Bard pulls out her laptop to play RuneScape, full blast. I told her not to do that. The Barbarian continues to play on his phone, lose track of initiative, and show a lot of PDA, making the group uncomfortable. Next week and again they are late, and in combat the Bard falls unconscious because she doesn't know how to play. She then cries and asks why I would do this to her. The Barbarian doesn't do anything about his wife, but the fighter tries to calm her down. This stopped the session for the day. Next time we play, the Wizard and Paladin are doing all the heavy lifting. And the Barbarian complains that he doesn't have any spell utility, even though he knows that Barbarians are purely martial. On top of all of this, they will cancel last minute, make out in the middle of sessions, interrupt people while they are Peter show memes, talk loudly amongst themselves, and complain if things aren't going their way. How do I address this? I worked really hard on this campaign. Edit. Update. I confronted Barbarian, and he said he understands why I would be upset, and he feels bad. He asked if I would reconsider having him leave, and I said he has one more chance. The Bard however didn't understand where she went wrong, and said that it's just a game. The Barbarian however stepped in. I just wanna thank everyone for the positive feedback. Rule proposal. Write considerately. Long rune in paragraphs, uninterrupted stream of consciousness meltdowns, and posts with mounds of irrelevant details / convoluted aliases are not reader friendly. If your authorial voice sounds like it desperately needs to use the bathroom at a large amusement park with no maps. Hey, I get it, that's what rough drafts are for. Just get the ideas down on paper, but there is no time pressure to hit the submit button. You don't have to send in the unedited blob of thoughts. There's no reason to submit anything written in that fashion if you care about readability. Caring about readability refers to having a modicum of consideration about the people you want to read your submission. If you can't be bothered to give a shit about the audience, namely, your peers on this sub, I don't think you're a positive addition to the community. I think the subreddit should have stronger rules against these types of inconsiderate posts existing. Underscore. And frankly, your decision to not even try to communicate helpfully is not a good trait for someone who wants to participate in a collaborative game like D&D. If you insist on posting like a neurotic telegram operator on an airplane about to crash into the Titanic, yeah, you probably are the bad guy. And entirely for reasons under your control. DM bullies PC who had to leave at the agreed end time by killing their character. Second session of the campaign, we hit the agreed upon end time. DM wants to keep going but one of the PCs needs to leave. I'm the most experienced player / and typical DM, so she asks me to run her character. As she's leaving the DM starts joking that he's going to kill her character as soon as she leaves. 10 minutes later we get in a fight on a mountain path. She's an archer, so I put her in a defensible position that's behind the front line that's also away from the slope. I declare a readied action to fire her arrow at anything that approaches the group. DM decides that the enemy can leap over the frontline fighters, attack her without provoking our opportunity attacks, or letting her use the readied action. On a hit, he declares she flies through the air several spaces and falls off the cliff and dies. DM ends the episode noting that it's not his fault because he's just running by the book and it was a bad die roll. Not allowing an immortal familiar is apparently completely nerfing his character. This is a shorter story about a player I had in a campaign I run. I will name him Yardam, and this is one of many stories I have about this guy. The crux of the issue is that Yardam kept trying to inject overpowered homebrew into the campaign and would get upset when I would tell him he couldn't do it. He had this familiar robot spider that he also used as his spiritual weapon. I have no inherent issue with this, and for the most part there were no issues. Until a certain combat encounter presented itself where he was doing a lot of damage with his familiar. Yardam had initially summoned the spider as a spiritual weapon, but then started casting spells through it. The spider was just ripping into enemies, rolling consistently high damage with Yardam casting spells through it as a familiar. As a result of this, I rolled that one of the enemies got really annoyed and aimed at the spider. Yardam then told me that I couldn't target the spider since it was a spiritual weapon. I explained to Yardam that sure, he had initially summoned the spider as a spiritual weapon, but I pointed out that he had been using it as mostly a familiar as he was casting spells through this. That meant that it was currently a familiar and could be targeted. I then explained that if you're using your familiar / spiritual weapon and you use it to cast spells, in that round it's currently a familiar and can be targeted. This would not end its function as a spiritual weapon, but it wouldn't be able to function as a familiar until you go through the standard processes of resummoning it. Yardam apparently wasn't okay with this and accused me of going out of my way to completely nerf his character. I responded telling him I'm not nerfing his character, I'm just not going to allow a player to have an immortal invulnerable familiar that they can have give the help action and cast spells through because that's overpowered. He pouted for the rest of the session and afterwards made some really passive aggressive comments about how controlling I am. I just rolled my eyes at him and this was the beginning of the end for him. He eventually rage quit out of the campaign mid-combat because he failed a concentration check on a spell. TLDR, player pouts and accuses me of completely nerfing his character because I won't let him have an immortal invulnerable familiar. Am I overreacting, or are my player just wannabe hardcore? So, I recently got into D&D again after a horrible experience a few years ago, this time as a DM. I'm playing with 5 of my closest friends and we play twice a week, but I start to regret everything honestly. Apologies for mistakes, but English is not my first language. So, in my campaign, they are the chosen ones, and are fighting a few demons. Monsters, all for glory and fame, but they are kind of exaggerating it. Last session, I put them in dangerous terrain. They've never experienced a sandstorm before, since the world is pretty Middle European based. I was hoping for them to react to it, but instead they went sleeping, not even showing some kind of fear or concern for the spectacle. Like, I have never experienced a sandstorm either, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't stop staring at it and being anxious when I asked if they don't want to look into it closer. They said, dude, we are adventurers, we fear nothing. Okay, cool. The session before, I had an evil mage manipulating them and showing them an alternative reality where everyone they loved was dead or tortured. Again, nothing. They just went on, unfazed. And again the explanation, I'm an adventurer, I'm confident and strong, nothing can scare me. Not even you seeing your mother getting ripped apart by a zombie elf? Okay, cool. Another time, I said they couldn't get a long rest since the environment was harsh. If they fell asleep, the fire would have gone out and they would frozen to death. They wanted a long rest anyways. Because we are strong and powerful, we can handle it, followed by being mad at me when I did not kill them, but gave to levels of exhaustion due to freezing weather and their bodies not getting enough rest because they needed to fight the cold. Maybe that was unfair from my side, but I just wanted a reaction. I wanted a hint of fear, concern, something that wasn't we are though bitches and nothing can kill us. I would have been happy with anything. But no, not even a hint of exhaustion during rollerplay. Okay, this is starting to get uncool. My question now is, am I just exaggerating, or are they too far gone in their power fantasy? I get that they want to be the heroes, but I think me making them the chosen ones who are the only people who can destroy the evil is really enough for level 8. I'm honestly starting to lose interest. Edit. Okay, I got it. I made mistakes. I shouldn't have given them an option to kill someone in session 0. It's okay. I understand that I might have another idea of D&D. I'll talk to my players and educate myself on the matter. Thank you. DM should have probably checked my attacks. So we had an encounter with 4 very powerful bandits in the middle of the woods. One downed me after I took him to bloodied with a bunch of monk attacks. So the man yanked the sword from my character. When I lucked out on saving throws and got up, he replied, "Aha, you can't do anything now. I have your weapon." My sword did 1d8 plus 4. My unarmed strikes are 1d8 plus 4. The sword was just sentimental to the character. So I went. The monk got visibly upset. Possibly the most upset the group has seen, from the small monk pivoting his tiny legs into a defensive position. He takes a martial arts stance. I'd like to use flurry of blows and I'll start with stunning strike with each attack until it succeeds. Enemy fails a saving throw. Enemy is stunned and all attacks against him gained advantage. All the hits that failed were met with me using my lucky feat to roll a success. I've never seen a DM gasp in disbelief so hard in my life. Turns out there was supposed to be reinforcement in a few turns. Except they didn't, because my monk attacks annihilated and stunned their leader. The DM pulled us into a meeting after the session was over. Hey, I might not be able to play next week. That was the bad guy that was going to be a major part of the next 5 sessions. He was supposed to show up and show off how powerful he was in a brutal battle with the group and escape. He wasn't expecting immediate step of the wind use in move 1, flurry of blows, and stunning strikes to change that. The campaign group was quietly dissolved. We stayed friends and still laugh about it sometimes. Player gets drunk at table. So I've been for some friends for about 2 years now. We have always enjoyed playing together, and we'd occasionally lightly drink some or something to get a little tipsy and loosen up to role playing. We've never had any problems. Well, for context, we have just finished COS and started a new campaign that I've been working on for the past few months. I politely asked all of my players to not drink on this first session due to the fact that this campaign was gonna be a mystery and you'd probably need a clear head for it. They all agreed. Now when the problem player arrives, he comes bringing in 4 bottles of wine. I remind him that it's better to be sober for this session and he says he'll take it easy. 4 empty bottles later, he is absolutely fucked at the table and is barely playing. One of my other players gets pissed and leaves. And soon everyone else does as well. The problem player is now the only one left at my apartment and says that this was the most fun I've had at D&D in weeks. It really hurt and pissed me off. But it's weird because he never acts like this. This was really just a rant, not really looking for advice tbh. Edit. I've heard what everyone has said, and I agree that he's probably going through some hard times. I didn't see that at first due to being frustrated. But I will try and talk to him to make sure everything is alright. Guide on how to know if a story is fake or not, Ultimate Definitive Edition. Lately I've noticed a lot of meta discussions on the topic of faking stories, so I decided to throw my hat into the ring and compiled a list of general rules that can be applied to pretty much every post on here. Hope this helps. Is greater than exclamation point 1. Consistency is key. An OP should never give you their either up is greater than exclamation point 2. Regardless of its legitimacy, it always sucks when a story doesn't have a satisfying conclusion. Especially the extra long posts. A good author would never let you down. Is greater than exclamation point 3. Isn't it weird how some ops refuse to acknowledge any sort of criticism? But you can see that they are active on other subreddits. It's pretty telling. If they run around and desert you like that, they're probably hiding something. Exclamation point 4. This is r/rupger or stories not r/sad. The goal shouldn't be to make you cry. Is greater than exclamation point 5. It's a bit of a personal gripe. But never say goodbye at the end of your posts. Not only is it unnecessarily dramatic, but we all know you're going to be back in a month or two. Exclamation point 6. Don't let the OP bully you. Telling lies is one thing, but if they are trying to hurt you in some way then you should definitely speak up. And, yeah, that's it. I just wanted to tell you guys how I'm feeling, and, hopefully, make you understand my point of view.